Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're tackling something that might actually surprise you. We're going to break down the massive, incredibly complex logistical puzzle of the modern poultry industry. You know, if you think farming is just about tossing feed to chickens and gathering eggs in a basket, well, you are in for a huge surprise. In reality, it's a highly competitive, meticulously tracked, and just relentlessly fast-paced global operation. And to survive, companies are turning to some seriously powerful technology. So, let's jump right in. All right, here's a quick look at our roadmap. We're going to start by unpacking the huge pressures on modern poultry farming. Then, we'll introduce a platform called Intuition Poultry ERP, dive into how it manages core farm operations, see how it empowers outgrowing farmers, and finally, wrap up with logistics and financial intelligence. Section 1, Pressures on Modern Poultry and what it really means to scale up. Just look at the sheer visual scale of this operation. I mean, wow. This is absolutely not your grandfather's farm. It is a massive, highly tuned biological production line. And when you're operating at this kind of scale, a single miscalculation, whether that's in feed, temperature, or timing, it doesn't just cost you a few bucks. It can literally cost you an entire flock. The complexity of managing thousands upon thousands of live animals all at once is just staggering. Because of that immense scale, relying on a farmer's intuition or gut feeling, that's just not going to cut it anymore. The industry data highlights some very real, very tough challenges. Competition is relentlessly increasing, which creates this massive pressure to improve productivity and drastically slash operational costs. To pull that off, farms are literally being forced to automate their core operations. They have to perfectly align what they can produce with what the market actually demands. If consumer habits shift, your forecasting has to shift right along with it, or you're left with an incredible amount of waste. Simply put, you need incredibly lean, process-oriented operations just to survive out there. I actually love this quote from the brochure. Don't be the last company to take off with today's ERP. It hits the nail right on the head, doesn't it? It's a stark warning. The whole industry is racing toward real-time insights and data-driven decisions, and the farms that drag their feet are going to be grounded while their competitors absolutely take flight. Which brings us to Section 2, Enter Intuition Poultry ERP, the state-of-the-art solution to all this complexity. So what is Intuition Poultry ERP? Well, first off, it is definitely not just some generic business software that somebody tried to awkwardly force-fit onto a farm. It's a highly robust, incredibly scalable tech platform that was built specifically from the ground up for the unique quirks and everyday practices of the poultry industry. To put it simply, think of this software as the central brain for the entire supply chain. You know, a lot of farms are dealing with a totally fragmented setup. They've got one clunky system for accounting, a random spreadsheet for tracking feed, maybe paper notes for flock health. Intuition scraps all of that. It integrates the whole shebang, from waste management and feed production right up to big-picture financial management, all into one unified, state-of-the-art suite. Moving on to Section 3, Managing Core Farm Operations and Tracking the Biological Life Cycle. The operational scoop we're dealing with here is just wild. We are talking about tracking the complete life cycle, literally from the grandparent birds all the way down to the final broilers. The ERP is tracking every single developmental stage. It kicks off with parent farm management, moves right into the super delicate breeding phase, manages the eggs at the hatchery, and perfectly syncs all of that up with feed and food production. The software always knows exactly what stage a flock is at and exactly what resources it needs right at that moment. It's genuinely fascinating how it seamlessly blends organic biology with digital data. The system manages live bird weights side by side with hard data on environmental controls. It's scheduling farm activities, managing the laying and breeding cycles, and keeping a super close eye on poultry feed. And by gathering all this intel, it gives you total end-to-end traceability. Meaning, if there's ever an issue with a specific batch of birds, you have the historical data to trace it all the way back to the hatchery, or even figure out the exact batch of feed they ate. Let's shift gears a bit for Section 4, Empowering Outgrowing Farmers Through Connected Agriculture. When you compare traditional farming to Intuition, it's basically night and day. With the old, traditional way, you had completely disconnected field officers taking manual notes, which means there's this massive, risky lag in communication. But with Intuition, it's all about seamlessly plugging independent farmers into a larger overarching network. You get things like scheduled field visits right through a connected app, real-time analytics on expected production, and optimum feed release. It completely eliminates the guesswork out in the field. So how does that actually play out on the ground?
Well, farmers start by registering their specific details and the actual capacity of their farms. Then, based strictly on those registered numbers and the expected market demand, the system automatically calculates and deploys the exact right amount of resources they need: chicks, feed, medicines, you name it. It connects field officers directly to the farms to guarantee best harvesting practices, constantly captures batch progress, and even crunches the numbers on post-harvesting info and pricing patterns. It basically transforms independent farmers into a highly synchronized, super efficient network.
And that brings us to our final section, logistics and financial intelligence, where we pull back and look at the big picture. Check out the stark contrast here. On one side, we have the raw organic product, eggs fresh from the farm. But on the other side, we have a high-tech digital mapping interface. Intuition takes us straight from raw egg production directly to integrated fleet management. It generates optimized routes for delivery officers, schedules the exact vehicles needed to dispatch chicks or collect birds, and tracks all those deliveries in real time. It literally links biological yield right to logistical execution. The ultimate payoff for linking all these moving parts is a super comprehensive business intelligence dashboard. And we aren't just looking at generic accounting here. You are getting hardcore, industry-specific KPIs and analytics. It totally streamlines demand forecasting, which ensures optimum production volumes and practically eliminates wastage. Plus, it bakes in comprehensive financial management that complies with global accounting standards. So everything, quality assurance, cost control, procurement, is monitored clearly from a single pane of glass. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to ask ourselves about the future of these operations. Is your poultry business ready to take off, or are you still relying on yesterday's tools? The poultry industry is absolutely not slowing down, and the margin for error is shrinking by the minute. When technology like Intuition exists to digitize everything, from grandparent breeding all the way to final delivery, the choice is pretty clear, isn't it? Are you ready to embrace a fully integrated, data-driven future? Or are you crossing your fingers that yesterday's clunky tools will somehow keep you in the game tomorrow? It really is a fascinating look at the incredible tech driving the food on our tables. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.